Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank the media for joining us today and for members and stakeholders tuning in via Facebook. For those who do not know me, my name is Beth Potter, and I am the President and CEO of the Tourism Industry Association of Canada, commonly known as TIAC. We are the national voice of the tourism industry and take action on behalf of Canadian tourism businesses, advocating, promoting, and supporting policies, programs, and activities that will benefit growth and development. Before I start, I would like to first take a moment to acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home from coast to coast to coast. We extend to them our respect for their valuable past and present contributions to this land. Now, a few housekeeping items before we proceed. First, during this press conference, we will only be addressing media questions. For those watching on Facebook, we will respond to your questions following this event. Second, presentations will be made in English. However, French questions are more than welcome by media during the Q&A portion, and we have included French speaking notes in the chat for those who wish to follow along. And finally, after our comments conclude, we ask media to raise their hand if they have a question. Our team will call on you in order, and you may direct your question to any of the panelists on today's call. If time allows, you will also be invited to ask a follow-up question. So let's begin. I'm very proud to be kicking off this year's Tourism Week in Canada with support from Destination Canada and our provincial and territorial counterparts. With me today are Marsha Walden, President and CEO of Destination Canada, and representatives from all of our provincial and territorial tourism industry associations, including Walt Judas, Tourism Industry Association of BC, Darren Reeder, Tourism Industry Association of Alberta, Colin Ferguson, Travel Manitoba, Jim Bentz, Hospitality Saskatchewan, Chris Bloor, Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, Eric Paquette, Alliance de l'Industrie Touristique de Québec, Craig Foley, Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador, Emily Léger-Stewart, Tourism Industry Association of New Brunswick, Lisa Dar, Tourism Industry Association of Nova Scotia, Corinne Clements, Tourism Industry Association of PEI, Blake Rogers, Tourism Industry Association of the Yukon, Kevin Kelly, Travel Nunavut, and Joel Walton, Spectacular Northwest Territories. As you can see by the presence on the screen, we stand united as an industry, collectively representing over 225,000 businesses and almost 2 million employees across the country. Tourism touches every single riding and community in Canada and is an economic generator for our country. Before COVID, the tourism industry generated $105 billion, accounting for just over 2% of Canada's GDP, and as I said, employing close to 2 million workers. But this pandemic has hit us hard, hit us first, and because of its rippling effect, the tourism industry will be the last to recover. My colleagues and I lift our voices in unison to say Canada cannot afford to lose the tourism industry. Tourism counts, and next week, Tourism Week, we salute our industry. Tourism Week is a 7-day coast to coast to coast event to recognize Canada's tourism economy and the impact it has across the country. The official start of Tourism Week is Sunday, May 23rd. And throughout the week, we will be highlighting regions from across Canada and sharing stories of how tourism has made a difference in communities across this country. Tourism Week is also a time for residents to understand their vital connection to the industry's recovery. We are calling on Canadians to take the 2021 Tourism Pledge to travel in Canada. It's an invitation to come together as a country and support our local tourism destinations, businesses, and employees. Our operators are ready to welcome you. They have done the work to ensure all products and experiences meet the proper health and hygiene regulations. The tourism industry has worked hard through this pandemic. Not everyone has survived, and all have had to adjust and sometimes make heartbreaking and difficult decisions. Owners and employees have had to be nimble and adapt to new regulations and restrictions through 3 waves of crises. This Tourism Week is also about recognizing the sector's resilience and perseverance through this unprecedented time. So while we at TIAC and the other organizations on this call continue to advocate for the reopening of Canada's borders, we are asking Canadians to choose to travel in Canada first, to support our industry and kickstart the recovery. We know that 80% of Canadians plan to travel as restrictions are released, and our focus next week is to make sure that we do that first in Canada. We invite Canadians to start planning now and take the pledge to travel in Canada, post it on social media, and encourage their family, friends, and followers to do the same. We invite members from across the country to be engaged and share the message of how their business makes a difference for their community. Plus, if you have a lighting system, we encourage all tourism businesses to glow green this Tourism Week. Next week is about you, our industry, and the difference you make in the lives of Canadians. Let's work together and let everyone know that tourism counts. I am now pleased to pass the floor to Marcia Walden, President and CEO of Destination Canada, for a few comments.
Well, thank you, Beth, and thank you to TIAC for inviting all of us here today. It's a great assembly of our industry. I'm pleased to be speaking to you from Vancouver, the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. Mon discours d'aujourd'hui sera en anglais, mais une transcription complète est disponible en français dans Zoom. Un communiqué de presse sera distribué après l'événement avec des liens et des détails sur les initiatives dans les 2 langues officielles. Destination Canada est heureuse de répondre aux questions dans la langue officielle de votre choix. Of course, this has been an incredibly challenging 15 months for our tourism sector, as Beth outlined. But there is hope on the horizon for all of us, we believe. So leading up to Tourism Week, we're reminding all Canadians about the value of tourism in their communities, and we hope to inspire them to travel in Canada this year. So I'm pretty excited to be sharing with you today 2 new domestic marketing efforts. And there will be a media release that's shared after this event, which will include links and more details about these initiatives. So please watch for that. Firstly, we have our Postcard Campaign, which is inviting Canadians to begin to plan for reconnecting with family and friends that they've missed so much, and to get inspired about the places in Canada that are just waiting to be discovered. This is the year for that. We've created a series of postcards in both French and English, which we will print and mail to your loved ones all across Canada. So you can send your postcards by going to postcardsfromcanada.ca or cartepostalducanada.ca. And of course, nothing would be better than getting a nice postcard in the mail with an invitation from family. We also couldn't do anything in our industry without the people who make it up. Those are dedicated, passionate people that are really feeling ready to welcome you back and have all the protocols necessary to do so as soon as restrictions are lifted. So I'm very pleased to be sharing with you today our new anthem video, which highlights the people who make up Canada's tourism sector. The richness of our diversity and the heartbeat of this country can all be found in Canada's tourism industry. And those are the elements that are so fundamental to our quality of life as Canadians. Everyone in this video you're about to see contributes to our sector. They're not actors. So I'll let the video do the talking. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Marcia. And I think that video is a great anthem for our industry and for our country. Thank you for sharing that with us today. I would like to conclude the speaking portion of today's session with a short video from Minister Joly.
Hi everyone, bonjour tout le monde. I'm happy to be kicking off the Tourism Industry Association of Canada's virtual Tourism Week, edition 2021. First off, I want to wish you all a happy Tourism Week. We all know that the past 14 months have been very difficult, but you've demonstrated great resilience and dedication. And we've been right there as a government by your side throughout that time. We've invested more than $15 billion in support to the tourism, arts, and cultural sectors, and Budget 2021 is committing an additional $1 billion to Canada's tourism sector. Our plan long-term is to support Canada's economic recovery, of course, to create more jobs and bring back those that were lost, and bring in visitors in order to stimulate local economies. Notre pays est magnifique. Ça vaut tellement la peine de le découvrir pour nous et pour les voyageurs étrangers qui un jour vont revenir, on en est tous convaincus. Nous avons tellement à offrir et bien sûr, nous avons des entreprises, des acteurs et des organisations touristiques fantastiques. Alors, à tous ceux et celles impliqués au sein du secteur touristique canadien, merci pour tout ce que vous faites. Et je souhaite à tous et à toutes une excellente semaine du tourisme. Profitez-en bien sûr pour découvrir des commerces locaux ou des sites près de chez vous en toute sécurité. Passez une bonne semaine.
Thank you, Minister Joly. We would now like to open the floor to questions from the media. We would ask that you raise your hand and my team will call on you in order to unmute your mic and ask a question. Please state your name, outlet, and who you would like to direct your question to. We will start with one question, one follow-up, and circle back once each person has had at least one question. Thank you. So while we are waiting for the media to get their questions in order, I would like to just once again remind everyone that the pledge that we are asking Canadians to take is one that's fairly easy. It's a pledge to travel in Canada first. And we will have available for the industry to download social media content, as well as a badge that anyone can use on their social media next week to show their support for the tourism industry.
Beth, I'll just add to that, if I may, that if Canadians take the pledge and 2/3 of the budget that they might normally spend on travel in a year is spent on travel in Canada this year, they can speed the recovery of our industry by a year and add another 150,000 jobs back into the industry simply through their own actions this summer. So it's a really important thing for Canadians to give some serious thought to and start planning their vacations. It will make a very big difference to our industry.
Great, thank you, Marcia. And I see that we have a question from Katia St. Jean. Katia?
Good morning. I work for CBC here in Saskatchewan, and I have a question for Western provinces, mostly Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. My question is, our COVID cases over here and our COVID approach is very different between those three provinces right now and looking towards the summer. What are you expecting in levels of locals traveling in between these provinces to, if you want, travel the country and also explore the different provinces? How does COVID affect that? And what are you expecting for local tourism between these Western provinces this summer?
Great, thank you, Katia. Jim, do you want to start?
Sure, and thank you very much for having me today in a great event. And that's a really great question, Katya. In Saskatchewan, our province has released their reopening plan. It's a three-step plan, and we're very much looking forward to the next couple of weeks when we get into step one, which there's a relaxation of many of the restrictions that we have and what it's done for the psyche here amongst all of us, whether it's consumer confidence or employer confidence. Is really taking a sharp upturn, and to the point where we're talking with the government about reigniting our festival season, which is coming right in the summertime. How is it that we can put spring into summer? And it's been remarkable how it is that all of these markets have reactivated. We've got a media campaign that will be starting in the middle of June as well, because if we continue the downward trajectory on the vaccinations, or upward trajectory on the vaccinations and downward on the infections, it's looking very positive for us, particularly once we hit mid-July, beginning of July, mid-July. We're very excited about bringing a lot of traffic, moving a lot of traffic within Saskatchewan to all of our tourism operators, as well as into our urban centers where our hotel assets in our downtowns, they've been particularly hard hit. So we're really looking forward to this festival season. And, hopefully the intra-provincial travel can start to happen as well, too, as other provinces, our sister provinces to either side are able to reopen as well. So.
Great, thank you. Katya, do you have a follow-up question?
Are you expecting many visitors from other provinces to travel across provinces, or are you more expecting residents of Saskatchewan to travel within the province based on those very different restrictions that are looking forward to the summer?
Mm-hmm. I think that realistically, when we look at sort of some of the hesitancy that's happened, although we're very enthusiastic about our plan and we understand that we're going to be able to, from a Canadian perspective, we're pretty well positioned to have that travel within the province. So our expectation is that for the most part, it will be those folks that are within Saskatchewan traveling around and taking in new experiences that they might not have experienced in the past. So do we expect some traffic? We're hopeful that those that have been vaccinated and come to our province. And we're going to be doing everything in a very, very safe way as well. But for the most part, the majority of our travelers, we believe, will be from within Saskatchewan's borders for sure.
Great,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Jim. Thanks, Katya. Our next question is from Mia Gordon.
Not necessarily a question about the travel, but I just really love the story idea with the postcards. Wondering if we can follow up with that for the Weather Network, and if there might be some additional B-roll or video that can accompany that.
Yes, absolutely. We have an extensive library. I'm sure we'll have exactly what you need. I'll put you in touch with our corporate communications staff after this call, and be sure you get what you need. Thank you for your interest.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. There's a question here from Jim Byers, and he asks if some of the provincial folks could offer up a few of their favorite places to explore that we may not know about. So I'm going to start with Craig.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Jim, and thank you, Beth. You know what? I think we've all experienced the confines of our own home for the last number of months. I'm very much looking forward to being able to get out to visit some family in Newfoundland and Labrador. Very keen to get to Central and spend a little bit of time in fishing. Actually, is what I'm looking forward to. We're still trying to grapple with the reality of uncertainty. We don't know when things will open. Operators are trying to plan those things. So, as an individual, being able to explore our own province is the first step, and then we look to broaden that in getting into other provinces. There will be a day very soon, I hope, that I'll be able to get to central Canada, and I'm looking in the fall to get out west. So there are many hidden gems. There are many great natural assets that we should all try and get out and explore when the restrictions lift and time is appropriate.
Thanks, Craig. And I'm going to go right to the other side of the country and ask Walt if what hidden gems in BC should people start dreaming about?
Gosh, there are so many, Beth. The popular places in British Columbia, of course, aside from the cities and places like Whistler, tend to be the Okanagan and the Kootenays and the Sunshine Coast. But the hidden gems are in places like the Caribou, Chilcotin Coast region, where there are many small towns that have, it's like a throwback to yesteryear, including a place called Barkerville, which many people know about, but nobody goes to from British Columbia because they're so familiar with it, whereas internationals tend to visit there. And but these places throughout the Caribou Chilcotin Coast region and the north, I might add, have tremendous ranches and resorts that, again, internationals really go to for a lot of the time, but locals really need to discover as well. And that's what I'm looking forward to this summer.
Great. Thanks, Walt. I'm going to move on. We can always come back to this question because I know that we all have something that we can share, but we've got a couple more folks that with their hand up. So Claudia Laroa. Go ahead, Claudia.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much. We all have an idea after this period of pandemic lockdown in our various provinces about what we can each do to help local and help tourism. But I'm wondering, and this question is for anybody, whether or not you have kind of like a top 3 things that you want or would like Canadians to do in helping tourism rebound. Marcia mentioned spending some of our saved up tourism dollars to speed the recovery. And I'd love to know 3 things that Canadians can do. And if it's 5 things, share those, please, that are specific action items, whether it's the postcards or staying at a local hotel in downtown Vancouver or downtown Montreal, a list of action items that you personally would recommend. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So I'm going to ask Darren Reeder from Alberta to lead us off on that question.
Great, thank you, Beth. I think it starts with what we've already talked about, which is a system of travel credits. We have to give some incentivization for people to want to spend generously. People are going to do things that they normally do in their backyard, but we need them to realize that this is a unique summer and they need to spend in a manner that is commensurate with how they would spend if they went on a long haul trip. Many people do not understand that the contribution of international visitors are anywhere from 6 to 8 times what a lot of our local residents spend. So it's really important that we encourage people to spend generously in what they do. I think beyond asking people to take travel pledges and to get excited about experiencing things in their backyard, it's really summoning this idea that we have to support local. It's never been more important to bring back our way of life, to bring back our communities, and to support our friends and families in a resumption to normal work activities. So those are just a couple things.
Great. Claudia, did you have a follow-up question?
I think that's 2 that I counted. I need 1 more, please.
I'd be happy to weigh in here, Beth, if you don't
Great,
mind.
Marcia, go for it.
I already mentioned the budget thing. Consider what you normally spend in a year and take 2/3 of it and spend it in Canada, and we'll be a long way to recovery. The other thing I would suggest is actively think about urban centers. Canada has a unique set of cities that are unlike most cities in the world. We are filled with green spaces and outdoor activities and parks and lakes and canals. And so, you know, the kind of urban experience that you can have in Canada is really very different to most places in the world. And most Canadians are, you know, eager to flee the city and get out into the countryside. But consider your neighboring cities as another option for travel this summer. They really need your support, and they're an incredible experience, and you'll find lots of those outdoor activities. The other thing I would say is be a leading light. Canada and all travel really globally needs to have those adventuresome few that get out there first, get on an airplane first, travel to another province first. And once you are that, leading or early adopter, as they say, of new travel experiences, you'll be able to share just how ready our industry is and share that with your family and friends and colleagues so they can see that the industry is ready to host Canadians and the world. So those would be my top three. Take your budget, consider cities, and be a leading light and share your experiences with your friends, family, and colleagues.
Great, thank you, Marcia. I'm going to turn this one to Blake at TIA Yukon. Question here from Thomas Lundy at Canadian Geographic. He would be interested to hear thoughts on benefits or impact of ecotourism moving forward.
Thanks, Beth, and thanks for the question. I think that as over the past year, everybody's been dreaming about getting out into the wild outdoors, wide open spaces, and just the natural part that the natural resources that Canada has to offer. So I would just say, I think that we have to really. I think it's really important just to recognize the value that those natural assets have in Canada, from provincial parks, territorial parks, national parks. Just the opportunities that could come from being able to have access to those parks. I know that in the Yukon, for example, we have Kluane National Park is beautiful, Tombstone Territorial Park. So I would just say. On the park side, it's really important that we recognize the value that brings, and also just the fact that they will be a draw as things begin to open up. On the ecotourism side, I think that it's, expanding into sustainable tourism. One thing I think is just really important as well too, just to note, is that as travel resumes, it's really important for travelers to recognize that when they're going to a destination is more than just a destination. It's also somebody's home. So I think it's just a really important concept for, and something that the tourism industry does a very good job of, something that we continue to strive for, to just really emphasize that message that, to really learn about the places that you're visiting and care about the people that are there. And I think the more that happens, the greater the connection will be.
Thanks, Blake. Now, we are running down to the last minute of this press conference, so I just want to take one more question. And Michelle Jarvie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I was just sending the question in. I guess that my question's for both Alberta and BC. Sorry, I'm from the Calgary Herald. BC and Alberta are intrinsically tied when it comes to tourism, and Albertans go in droves to BC, but given the situation, BC has politely asked us to not come to their province, understandably. So I'm wondering, are BC and Alberta working together going forward, how to address that, to manage the numbers of people coming in, and who knows, which province is going to recover faster, but are the two provinces working together on a sort of a recovery plan and a reintroduction plan?
Walt, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can't speak to the level of conversation, but I do know that they speak very regularly. And to your point, BC relies on Alberta visitors, to be sure, particularly in the Kootenays region, where many Albertans have a second home. So that discussion is ongoing. I know that we have travel restrictions underway now, which is to dissuade people from traveling between regions, and including Albertans not coming into British Columbia, but some of those restrictions are expected to be lifted as soon as next week. To what extent, we're not sure. But we know too, we've been speaking with our provincial government about when the time is right to start talking to Albertans and British Columbians about traveling within the province and to be welcoming once again. And it's a key part of what we need them to message, that we are open for business and that we are ready to welcome back our neighbors.
Great. Thanks, Walt. Darren, did you have one? I'll give you the last word on this.
Great, thank you. From an Alberta perspective, there's been no directive to say people cannot come into the province, but we're certainly looking for evidence of a plan from our government. We don't know how the next round of restrictions are going to relax and how we're systematically going to reopen. So that's really the first step before we can talk interprovincially about how we receive people from further afield.
Great, thanks, Darren. So that brings us to the end of this press conference. I do want to remind all media that if we didn't get to your question, we will. I also wanted to just also remind you that we'll be highlighting each region of the country as the course of Tourism Week goes by, and all of the panelists today will be available over the course of the week for additional time with you, so we can certainly make those connections for you. And just to the what should we be doing and what should we be encouraging Canadians to do, Marcia just sent me a quick note, says I thought of another one, and of course it's one that we're all talking about these days, and that is Canadians, please get vaccinated. Please be vaccinated as soon as you can, and that will help us get to the point where we can start to see a restriction on travel within our country and eventually internationally as well. I want to thank you all for joining us. Please head to tourismcounts.ca if you want to take the Tourism Week pledge, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend. Thanks very much for joining us. Je vous remercie de nous aujourd'hui. Merci.